Wade Wilson doesn't ease you in. He barges through a wall, cracks a joke about his own mouth, and then almost gets himself killed again. That's Deadpool in a nutshell. Loud, messy, and somehow emotionally stapled together with duct tape and bad decisions. Right at the start, we pick up on the chaos he's leaving behind. Not to spoil too much, but he's been juggling the aftermath of his previous family-like chaos, and his life is as stable as a grenade with a short fuse. Which is to say, not at all, and very entertaining. Enter Logan. He's not looking for adventure. He's pretty much done with it. Older, grimmer, and still impossibly broody, Logan is living a quieter life when fate, and Wade's relentless inability to leave well enough alone, slam them together. Their first interactions are classic opposites attracted to problems. Wade tries to rope Logan into some scheme with the subtlety of a neon sign, while Logan responds with the kind of exasperated growls that suggest he'd rather be anywhere else. But the thing about these two is that their dysfunctions complement each other. Wade's chaotic optimism driving them forward, and Logan's controlled violence making sure they actually survive. They're pulled into a mess involving time stream hijinks and a villain who, surprise, surprise, wants to rewrite things in a way that's spectacularly bad for everyone, but dramatically very convenient. The setup uses time travel as shorthand for both big stakes and bigger jokes.
Wade thinks of it as an opportunity to fix the one or two things he still got messy. Logan sees it as another headache, and the rest of the world predictably gets collateral damage. Along the way, we meet allies and annoyances who add color, stakes, and several action sequences that are borderline irresponsible in their choreography. One of the smart choices the film makes is letting Logan's past be a slow-burning revelation. We get flash-laced memories, a tough childhood, government experiments, and the bones of relationships that shaped him. But the movie doesn't bog itself down in exposition. Instead, it lets these fragments show up at the right moments. A wince during a quiet scene, a memory when a familiar scent appears, a small begrudging admission to Wade that yes, sometimes he misses people he shouldn't. Those little beats land because Jackman sells every one of them. His Logan is equal parts worn-out warrior and man who is only now learning how to let the music stop. Wade, predictably, is terrible at letting things be. His motivation is often personal and wildly impulsive. He wants to fix or at least control outcomes around him, and when time travel offers a tantalizing possibility, he lunges at it with the grace of a shopping cart crashing into a parade. That leads the duo into a string of missions where the objective keeps shifting. What starts as a plan to fix something specific turns into a scramble to undo a much larger threat.
Midway through, there's a sequence where they have to break into a high-security facility, and it plays like a heist and an R-rated buddy comedy at once. Explosives, banter, and an internal monologue from Wade that would make any voiceover jealous. Mama Bear levels of characterization come from peripheral characters who could have been background scenery. Wade's friend circle, loyal and frankly exhausted, gives us stakes that feel human. One scene where Wade looks at the people who put up with him and tries to explain why he switches from being a walking catastrophe to someone who can actually show up is unexpectedly touching. Logan's allies, meanwhile, are the silent type, who act more through grunts and well-timed aggression than speeches. The film doesn't hand out sentimental speeches as a giveaway. It earns emotional moments by letting the characters' actions speak. This is also a movie that loves cameos and meta winks. There are a few moments where the camera lingers just long enough for you to realize you've seen a familiar face in the MCU before, and then winks at the audience with the sort of fourth wall as structural element that the Deadpool franchise has made its brand. Some of these are cheeky and genuinely funny, a small cameo that's entirely gratuitous, then immediately played for laughs, and others are the kind of fan service that rewards the long-haul viewers without derailing the plot. You like Easter eggs? You'll find them tucked into fight choreography, background posters, and Wade's endless stream of inappropriate quips. The action is messy and brilliant. There's a long chase sequence that switches tones every few minutes. One moment it's slapstick, Wade improvising an escape with dubious gadgets. The next moment, Logan is single-minded carnage, tearing through fists and armor with the efficiency of someone who's done this a long time. And yes, it's violent. Gloriously, unapologetically violent. But the film balances that with humor, so you rarely feel like you're watching pure brutality for its own sake. Each action beat advances character or plot, a fight that reveals Ryan Reynolds' commitment to physical comedy, a throwaway line in the middle of a brawl that explains Wade's guilt, a desperate move that shows Logan is finally letting himself care. The villain's plan, when revealed, is equal parts grandiosity and emotional lever-pulling. He wants to change the timeline to serve a grievance that, once exposed, makes sense in a dark, selfish way, which is what gives the film its real conflict. Can Wade's irreverent, chaotic altruism and Logan's weary, protective instinct prevent someone from erasing consequences in a way that would cost countless lives? There's a philosophical angle here, quietly asked between explosions. Would you fix your regrets if it meant undoing other people? Wade's initial instinct is yes, because he's never been great at letting pain sit. But Logan's instinct is no, because he's learned that consequence shapes people in hard, necessary ways. Their debates are the emotional spine of the movie. Romantic beats are handled in that messy, human way life often is. Wade's feelings towards his love interest are real but complicated. They've been through too much to be neat. A tender scene where Wade tries to be normal, cooking, talking about mundane things, reads as an attempt to prove to himself that he can be the person he promises to be, not just the clown. The tension between wanting to be better for someone and being what you are is relatable, and the film mines it with surprisingly fresh lines and a few nicely staged quiet moments where the music drops and you can hear the actors breathe. There are also emotional payoffs that get earned rather than handed out. One mid-film scene where Logan, forced to watch someone he cares about in danger, decides to step in without asking why, feels like a culmination of his slow thaw. He doesn't give a speech, he just acts. That behavior becomes contagious in the team. Wade, who initially approaches everything with panache and sarcasm, finds his humor being used less as a shield and more as a way to connect. It's small character growth, not melodramatic, but visible, and it makes the ending mean a little more. The climax is loud, messy, and satisfying. It's a fight that ties together the personal stakes and the cosmic-level consequences, with one sequence where Logan and Wade have to make impossible choices in split seconds, choices made harder by the fact that time is literally on the fritz. We get high-octane set pieces interspersed with quieter moments of decision-making. A key beat involves Wade facing the temptation to erase something painful from his own life. The movie makes him live with that temptation in a way that's both funny and gutting. He tries to be a hero in his flawed way, and the movie gives him the room to fail and to learn. As for tone, the film never fully commits to being an earnest drama. It's more comfortable being an earnest comedy with a beating heart. That balance is held together by the leads. Reynolds' rapid-fire humor keeps the movie from getting bogged down, while Jackman's quieter performance roots it. Even when the plot gets dense with time travel rules and escalating stakes, the emotional through lines remain clear. Loyalty, regret, and the messy work of being a person who tries to do the right thing despite a long history of mistakes. The writing is self-aware in the best ways. Lines land because they're unexpected, and the film understands its own absurdity so it can lean into it without losing sincerity. There are nods to past films, jabs at the MCU machine, and playful deconstruction of superhero tropes, but these are never just for the ego of the screenplay. They serve character. Wade's jokes are his coping mechanism. Logan's gruffness is his survival strategy. The screenplay uses those traits to spin jokes that also move the plot, which is a tightrope that most franchise films fail to walk without stumbling into either fluff or self-indulgence. Here, it mostly sticks the landing. There's also some genuinely inventive visual humor, frames where the background or a quick cutoff line becomes the joke, or where a bloody moment is undercut by the mundanity of a prop or a neighbor yelling about recycling. Those small details make rewatches rewarding because you'll catch micro jokes you missed the first time. The action choreography itself deserves credit. It's inventive in a way that keeps you guessing, with Logan often using the environment brutally and efficiently, while Wade's improvisations look like someone reading a manual upside down. In the quieter final act beats, the film gives each protagonist a choice that defines them. Wade must choose between a perfect, selfish solution and the messy version that honors other people's existence. Logan must decide whether to carry the burden alone or let someone in. Small acts of trust that underscore the film's central line. Being a hero isn't just about winning fights, it's about holding people when the world wants to crush them. The resulting resolution hits emotionally because it's earned. There's a sacrifice, yes, but it's framed less as tragic fireworks and more as the natural consequence of who these people are, flawed, stubborn, and loyal in a way that feels real. The film ends on a note that is hopeful without being saccharine. Friends are not cured of their faults, they've merely learned to cooperate in spite of them. The last sequences tie up the immediate threats and leave room for future chaos, as any good comic book movie should, but they also close enough emotional arcs that the story feels complete. A post-climax moment where Wade and Logan exchange a look, half joke, half acknowledgement, is the kind of small closure that lingers. And, naturally, the credits tease something deliciously meta and possibly alarming. There's a post-credits gag that will make you laugh and then grin like you just got a private joke from the filmmakers. If you're the kind of viewer who waits through credits, reward yourself. There's a bit that pokes fun at the franchise machine and delivers an extra wink. Overall, this is a crowd pleaser that works because it knows what it is, a loud, R-rated buddy film that uses violence and jokes to ask small, human questions about regret, friendship, and the ethics of fixing your past. It's messy and brilliant in equal measure, driven by two actors who clearly enjoy being in the same room. If you come for the chaos and stay for the heart, you'll walk out humming a guilty tune and smiling, because beneath the blood and the punchlines, there's a real, if ragged, warmth. It doesn't reinvent the genre, but it does what it sets out to do with style, and that's more than enough.